Hey, TechDweeb!
Oh my god, what the heck?
What?
You're talking to me.
Yeah, so what?
It's just that, well, I've never had a retro emulation device talk to me before.
Okay, well that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, I guess.
So, you wanna play some retro games?
I mean, yeah, I kinda do.
Well, go ahead. Play them on me.
Okay, should I just,
Yeah, just grab me, pick me up.
like that?
Yeah, that's good. Now, push my buttons.
This feels weird.
Just relax, okay? Roll with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Don't stop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, right there.
This is,
Yeah, give it to me.
I
think I'm gonna...
you know what? No, I'm not doing this. Hi there, how you doing? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. Thanks for clicking on the video today. The handheld market is a crowded space. However, there are niches within it, but there's a specific niche that's very interesting to me. These are Android-based devices, most of them using the Unisoc Tiger T618 chip. And each company has their flagship version of a device like this. And now Powkiddy is entering the Android-based console fray with their version of a higher-end Android-based emulation device. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Powkiddy X28, which was sent to me to review by the good folks over at GameCUBE. They sell this, so if you want one, you should go buy it from them. There's a link in the description below. Could this be the powerful Android-based emulation console you've been looking for? The thing that's been missing from your life? Well, no, probably not that. It's not your childhood stuffed animal. I have that, and I'm selling it on eBay, starting at $800. But it's a pretty darn good gaming device, so maybe you could buy this and snuggle with it instead. The Powkiddy X28 is a big, powerful handheld game system that plays all your old favorite retro games up to and including Nintendo 64, Dreamcast, PSP, GameCube, Wii, and PS2. And also Android games, and also PC streaming. It does a ton of things right with a few minor missteps along the way, and today I'm going to show you what I like and what I don't and help you decide if this device is right for you. The T618 chip that powers this thing is enough to handle some pretty great emulation. It'll do all the older retro systems, all the early 3D systems, and even some more powerful stuff. And it also has some other specifications. Here they are now. Did you catch that? No? Okay, I'll show it to you one more time, but pay attention this time. One thing that sets the Powkiddy X28 apart from its competitors is the screen. It's a 5.5-inch IPS touchscreen display with a resolution of 1280 by 720. It's noticeably bigger when compared to the RP3 Plus, and it downright dwarfs Amblernic's RG405M. I must say that after using the X28 for a few days, I've come to really appreciate the size and quality of this screen. It's good for Android and higher-end games, of course, but even retro games look amazing on this thing. They're nice and big, so you can really see those crispy pixels. And the speakers are good, too. They're clear and crisp, and they get pretty loud. As an audio-visual experience, the X28 gets a lot of things right. The Powkiddy X28 is a big boy of a gaming handheld. Immediately upon getting it into your hands, you'll feel like you're holding something substantial. It shares the same processor as the famous RP3 Plus and Amblernic's latest, the RG405M, but it's much bigger than both of them, both in terms of how wide they are and also in how chunky it feels. Yeah, it's on the thicker side, and it's got some love handles for you to grab onto. Because of this, it really sits nicely in the palms of your hands and is very comfortable to hold, but it's still small enough that you can shove this in a bigger sized pocket so you can whip it out to impress the guys and gals while you're out for a night on the town. Overall, the build quality of the device itself is good. It's not amazing feeling, but it's not terrible. It feels a bit on the hollow side. The plastic doesn't feel super premium, but it does have a nice grippy texture that won't get all fingerprinty. They went with a sort of polygon shape, I guess I'd call it. At first I felt like the shape would make it uncomfortable, but after using it for a bit, I totally changed my mind. I said earlier that the device has a little hollow feeling. Well, this is actually interesting because that might be the reason that this thing runs really cool. On all my other T618 devices, when I play higher-end stuff like GameCube for a while, the devices get pretty darn warm. The X28 is actually really cool in comparison, and it might be because there's a bit more breathing room on the inside of the device for the heat to move around and escape, and the fact that there's nothing touching the back plastic, which means that the heat isn't getting transferred into your hands. Another nice surprise was the battery. They claim up to 5 hours of battery life, but I know for a fact that I got significantly more than that at 50% screen brightness. We have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in this thing, which is a ton of juice. The controls are okay. The D-pad isn't the best, it's a bit slippery and the diagonal sensitivity is a bit high, but it's not the worst in the world. The ABXY are good. I actually prefer these ABXYs on the X28 to many of my other more expensive devices. The thumbsticks aren't great though. They feel a bit on the cheap side, but most importantly, they didn't tune them properly. These snap to the cardinal direction, so it's hard to do precise diagonal movements. It's not noticeable most of the time. It's actually fine in most situations, especially retro games. I didn't notice it often, but it always annoyed me when I did. The triggers are okay. They're comfortable with a clicky feedback, but there's one more gripe that I have here. You see this little lip right here, where the edge of the chassis comes to a sharp edge, right where the L1 and R buttons end? I found that super uncomfortable. It's a sharp edge that my finger keeps on finding when I have them resting up there. It's just sloppy design there, really. There are a few unique buttons on the front of the device. On the left, we have a multitasking button and a screen mapping button. This is actually really interesting. In any gamer app, you can just push this button to instantly bring up Powkiddy's screen mapper. So you can set the physical controls of your device to the on-screen controls of the game. And it works really well. It's not as full-featured as others, but it's super simple and easy and quick. On the right, we have Android back and home buttons. On the top, we have a power button, micro SD card hole, USB-C hole for data transfer and plugging in external devices, a mini HDMI hole for plugging this into a TV or monitor, and another USB-C hole for charging, and a headphone hole and volume buttons. As for the system, I gotta be honest with you, on my device, the operating system was freaking weird out of the box. It was in Chinese, and then there was nothing pre-installed. No emulators or anything. No ROMs, and no Google Play Store. And I couldn't sideload it either for whatever reason. It wouldn't take. But in my searching, I came across this great video from Creative for Gaming, who had the exact same problem as me, and he shows how to do a fresh flash of the proper firmware from Powkiddy. I'll link to that video below if you have this problem with yours. In the end, it was easy to do, and it worked fine. After I flashed the firmware, I was greeted by a proper installation of the operating system, in English, with emulators and Google Play Store all installed and ready to rock. I've seen lots of reviews of this thing, also from Go Game Geek, who gave me this one, and none of them have this issue. But at least if you get unlucky and get a system like this, there's a relatively easy fix. And while we're on the topic of the system, Powkiddy built their own front-end launcher. I mean, it's nice that they're trying, but this launcher sucks. It's super bare bones, it doesn't do anything well, and you should immediately switch out your home launcher in the settings to the stock Android launcher. I also installed the Daijisho frontend to handle my ROM library and launch my emulators, and now it's freaking awesome. Yeah, I love Android devices for this reason. You have so much customization. You can install your own launchers and apps and front end and really tailor the experience to your own preferences. However, for newbies, people looking for something all set up and ready to rock right out of the box, this definitely isn't that. But what is it like playing games on this thing? Well, I mean, it's a T618 device, so the performance is about what we'd expect and is on par with devices like the RP3 Plus and the Flip and the RG405M. That means that you'll be able to emulate all the old stuff no problem, obviously. Yeah, all the classic retro systems, they play great. And they really do look great on this 5.5-inch screen. I always played Nintendo and Sega Genesis on a ton of these devices, but I was surprised at how fresh they felt on the X28. I was really enjoying retro gaming on this thing. And I think it might just be the fact that the screen is so big. If you're a retro game enthusiast, then the X28 will make your games look better than ever. And not just the older retro games. We have the guts to handle some more advanced stuff too. I'm talking about the early 3D systems. They won't be a problem, and you can get away with upscaling those systems as well. Lots of the lower-end handhelds can't do Nintendo 64, for instance, and even when they do, there will still be games that struggle. But the T618 chip in this thing is strong enough to handle any Nintendo 64 game, or any PS1 game, or Saturn, or Nintendo DS. And then for the higher-end stuff, we get some hit-or-miss performance. I mean, PSP is no problem. You can play every PSP game upscaled to at least 2x resolution, and they play great. Same thing with Dreamcast, you won't have any issues there. You'll get about 70% of GameCube games to run fine. I made a guide of how to get the best GameCube performance on the RP3 Plus, and considering that we have the same chip here, you can use that guide. PS2 is a bit harder to emulate, maybe only 50% of the 3D games will work well, but there are some dang good games that you can play on this chip. And with both PS2 and GameCube, we can take advantage of the widescreen hacks to enjoy the games as a full screen experience without stretching the images. Overall, GameCube and PS2 is just kind of a bonus. Don't buy this thing to play GameCube and PS2, but you can tinker with it and get quite a few games working, and they're fun to play. So, the question you're probably asking is, TechDweeb, when are we gonna get a face reveal? Well, okay, fine, here you go. But the second question you're asking is whether or not you should buy this thing. Well, here's what I'll say. The T618 device market has lots of options, and lots of them do a better job at being an easy, fun device to just start using. I'm a huge fan of both the RP3 Plus and the RG405M. The Powkiddy X28 also has some interesting design choices that might not appeal to everyone. The size and the shape and the analog sticks and the questionable software setup out of the box. But I don't think that any of those faults are a deal breaker. And there is lots that this thing does that other devices don't do. It's got a bigger battery than the competition and a way bigger screen. And it's a bulkier device, which might make it less pocketable, but it also makes it more comfortable to actually use. Let me summarize like this. If you're looking for something that focuses on pocket friendliness, then the RG405M wins that. If you're looking for something that is the best, most comfortable gaming experience to actually game on, then the Powkiddy X28 will take the win there. And the RP3 Plus is kind of the middle ground. It's not as pocketable as the X28, but it's a bit more comfortable to actually game on than the 405M. I've had a great time with the X28, and I can see myself reaching for this over the other T618 devices just because it's so big and comfortable. Even though I probably won't reach for this when I'm heading out if I want something to shove in my pocket and still leave room for a handful of jelly beans. If you'd like to pick one of these up, you should buy it from GoGameGeek. They sent this to me to review, and they have good prices, and I'll have their store page linked in the description below. And that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful or at least entertaining. I'd love to know what you think of the Powkiddy X28. And more importantly, I'd love to know if there's any products that are out there coming soon that you'd like me to check out. And while you're down there, you might as well subscribe. If you made it this far, you'll obviously like to see more of my videos, right? And that's it from me. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.